Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learn back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Gabrielle Petito, and I would first I want to offer my prayers and condolences to the family and close friends of her. They happen to see this video by some remote chance, if any of them do. As many of you may know, her death was recently ruled a homicide, and so she was murdered, and many believe that the boyfriend was fiance was responsible for this. He is currently running, apparently running and then trying to elude the police, it appears, and hopefully, prayerfully, he will be apprehended sooner than later, and we can really get closure on this once and for all. And it's just a terrible tragedy what took place. And I want to talk about her natal chart and some transits even that might be tied into this situation, even things that are not related to her death, because I want to talk about her natal chart in general as well. But anyway, well, the first thing up is that she is born on March 19th, 1999 is the birth date. It puts the sun at 28 or 29 degrees Pisces, depending on time of birth. Of course, I had to improvise once again and do a solar/sunrise chart in which I put the sun at the same point as the ascendant. And the thing is, she has the sun near the fixed star sheet, which, I mean, can be about homicide and murder, and it could be about suicide, but that's not what took place. And it's interesting, the sun is also about life, and her life was taken due to a homicide. The thing is, this is also this Pisces is connected with disappearances as well. And it's interesting that her sun in Pisces is conjunct Mercury, because Mercury is associated with news, and Mercury is also retrograde as well, based on the solar/sunrise time, and it's also at 29 degrees, the critical anaretic degree in astrology. So she's got the double dose basically of the fixed star sheet conjunction with the sun and Mercury connected with this. And the thing is, Mercury is also connected with short journeys. So this occurred apparently during a short journey. This murder did happen to her. And Mercury, I mean, this is looking at this, I mean, it just, again, not to be redundant, it's just terrible what had transpired with her. And the thing is, when I look at the chart, based on the solar sunrise time and placements based on that, she does have a preponderance of planets on the left side of the chart. 8 of the 10 fall on the left side, which could indicate nature that's very, you could say, self-reliant, independent, self-sufficient. And it might have been hard for her to do things as far as, like really, with others, I would say, because of this nature. I mean, she has in the solar sunrise chart also 6 of the planets fall not just in the first quadrant, but the first house. And this is not to imply, I mean, she would be overly, self-centered or egocentric, but a lot of the interests would be pertaining to the self, and a lot of times I would say those interests may take, precedence over others because of this. And the thing is, it may have been hard for her to do, constantly, not constantly, but acquiesce to others what they wanted. But the thing is, she does have that energy in Pisces, and Pisces, of course, can be about self-sacrifice, altruism. So it tells me that can modify that to some degree, because she can really be, looking at the chart, she can really be about helping others, but it tells me she still is very much in her own world. Pisces energy, again, can be very self-sacrificing, can be very altruistic. They often are involved in helping those that are less fortunate, such as the oppressed, the impoverished, the homeless, and the hungry. But between that and but the fact in Pisces, keep in mind, is also about isolation. So she did, I'm sure, need a lot of her time to herself as well. And again, I mean, a lot of this, energy, based on the fact that majority of these planets fall in that first quadrant in the first house, she may have been, needed to do much for herself, but I think at the same time, it wasn't like she couldn't, didn't do anything to help others. And it could be, and she also has what appears to be a bowl chart in terms of the chart pattern, and that energy could be very self-contained. So I guess in summation, what I'm saying is she just she was a little more, it could have been a little bit more about herself than the typical Pisces Sun person, but at the same time, again, not to be redundant, but she did show a lot of, and looking at the chart shows a lot of energy where she was could be about other people, as well, and sacrificing a lot during her life. Again, the Sun is about life, and Pisces is about self-sacrifice. The thing too is looking at her chart as well. Interestingly enough, okay, she has, based on the solar sunrise time, she has Gemini on the cusp of the 4th house of the end of life, and 29 degrees again is a crisis critical degree, and it's also the ruler of it, interestingly enough, okay, is Mercury, and it's at that, again, that fixed star sheet position. This could be and also Gemini is connected with the news and its communication. The thing about it is, and it showed that a mercurial person could have been involved in this murder, but the thing is too, on the cusp of her 8th house in the solar sunrise chart is Scorpio, and it's very likely that the boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, committed this murder, and he is a Sun in Scorpio. Interestingly enough, she has Mars in the 8th house, which could indicate a volatile or violent death in the sign of Scorpio, and it could have been connected perhaps with vengeance or jealousy, in some cases, given that it was in Scorpio. I mean, Scorpio energy can be very destructive. It could have been anger associated with passion, and maybe if that can happen, that could be a possibility. This is and she also has Chiron in the 8th house in the solar / sunrise chart, and that can be more, you could say, wounds and suffering in one's death. And the one of the rulers of the 8th house, Mars, is in that 8th house, and that could be an indicator of a death that was from result of murder. And another thing is, looking at the chart based on, just based on the solar sunrise positions, I calculated the part of death, the Arabic part of death, and it was like 17 degrees Libra. That would put it in the 7th house of partnerships, the significant other, and it would be intercepted. So that would be an indicator of it being something that was harder to detect in actually coming. And it's, again, this is just a complete terrible tragedy that actually had occurred with her. And anyway, and the thing is, I don't know if I'm correct in this, and you could confirm this on the internet, but my understanding was that they may have been homeless. It was a very peripatetic existence, to say the least, maybe on as far as the home life goes. And interestingly enough, again, going back to her having Gemini at 29 degrees on the cusp of the 4th house. Again, Gemini energy could be very mercurial, peripatetic. It could have indicated a lot of short journeys, a lot of moving and restlessness in the home life. And being at the crisis degree, it indicated to me that this could have been something that was happening very frequently, and more so than just being at 29 degrees, also representing the full culmination of the sign. Again, that's an indicator that could have been happening more frequently than just having Gemini on the 4th house cusp without it being at the 29th degree. And the thing is too, and the fact I would say that that ruler Mercury conjuncts the Sun tells me that that could have taken more of a toll on the physical vitality and energy. And the Sun in Pisces, I don't know what her ascendant is, and that the ascendant could have modified her energy level, but having the Sun in Pisces by itself is not exactly, one for a robust constitution or somebody that has an abundance of energy. Pisces can often be, rather low on energy. And the vitality can be, can be low in many people that do have the Sun in Pisces. Hold on a moment, people. Also in her chart, Pluto conjuncts Chiron, or at least a loose conjunction to it, and that's an indicator that there could be more wounds and suffering with one's death. It's in the sign of Sagittarius, connected with global communications and publishing. It's not surprising that this got out there and has become, story, I'm sure very global. Of course, if you Google something, anyone, I would say presumably, could see the results. And the fact that she has Gemini 29 degrees on the cusp of the 4th house in the solar sunrise chart puts Sagittarius, of course, at 29 degrees on the cusp of the 10th house in this chart as well. And the 10th house, can be about notoriety, recognition, and exposure. And sadly, you put it at 29 degrees again as a critical crisis degree. It's associated with, Sagittarius is associated with global communications, publishing. This was something that was, something not it was really getting notoriety for all the wrong reasons. And this, Sagittarius is reckless as well. And this death might have been the result, I would say, of reckless behavior. And the thing is, the terrible, tragedy, somebody so young, had her whole life ahead of her, had to go through this. It was just an unnecessary murder. And the thing is, if the boyfriend did this is a classic case, I would say, of people, I guess you could say, maybe being presumptuous in misconstruing characters of others. I'm going to elaborate on this. Is the fact that Brian Laundrie, initially, it appeared when he got into, there was apparently some kind of physical altercation between him and Gabby Petito, and the police, I believe, had intervened, and it appeared that Gabby, at least by what the police had stated, was the aggressor in this. And the reality is, and if you're assuming that if Brian Laundrie did commit this murder, that it shows that he's actually would be the more dangerous or volatile one, ironically enough. And the fact that he's a Sun in Scorpio, Brian Laundrie, shows the manipulative tendencies, perhaps, and that is where he was able, perhaps, to come across as the person that was more subdued, more passive in that altercation, and the person that appeared to be the victim. And interestingly enough, Gabby being the Sun in Pisces, this was a life, perhaps being a victim, and it could, and again, depending on the time of birth, could be at 29 degrees, her Sun in Pisces. I would not be surprised if she was born at a later time, and it would put the sun at 29 degrees closer to the actual fixed star the sheet position. And again, a life where the body had disappeared for a while, the sun could be connected with the physical body, and a life where unfortunately she may have been where she became basically a victim of a heinous and horrific crime, and taking a person's life at such a young age again is just so terrible. It makes me realize how blessed and fortunate I am to be alive at 51 years old at this time of this video. And the thing is, I noticed too in her chart, she also has she has Neptune in the 11th house, and this could show in some cases where maybe there might have been some deception and duplicity she might have experienced through internet, people she knew on the internet. Another thing as well is that what's interesting too is that transit Saturn, though it wouldn't be conjunct based on the orbs we use as astrologers, but still fairly close proximity to her natal Neptune. And there could have been a time too where she might have been feeling somewhat alone and desolate at this time. Remember that Neptune can be about isolation, and Saturn can be restriction at this time. And Saturn, the energy is also fear. Saturn could be connected with fear as well, and it might be a fear. This might have manifested some fear during a period where maybe she was isolated to some degree, and thinking maybe she didn't have anybody around her, or dealing with despondency and dejection and sorrow, perhaps in isolation at this time. Neptune and Aquarius, though generational, may still indicate a dissolving or dissipation of friends, and could also that placement in the solar/sunrise chart, Neptune and Aquarius being in the 11th house. I mean, Aquarius is connected with social media, and Neptune is associated with videos. So it's not surprising that at some point she was going to get some kind of exposure on social media and through television. I mean, Neptune is filmography, it's about videos, and of course the Aquarius could be connected with the internet and social media. So it's really not much more I could add as far as this their natal chart and transits that may have been tied into you could say her her murder. And again, I do hope that there is closure to this sooner than later. The only thing I want to add is that I'm looking at the her moon in Aries based on the solar / sunrise chart, and moon in Aries by itself might have made her at least on maybe known to the public as somebody that was maybe a fighter and could be combative. I'm not saying in a negative way. It shows that the emotions, the reactions can be very acrimonious and angry. And she does have the conjunction to Venus. That could be in relationships. That could have been something with the public where she was seen, again, seeing her in fighting somebody that she was in a relationship with. But again, I do believe that something had been misconstrued, and that Brian Laundrie was really more of the one that's been the instigator. They were in contentious situation. Moon in Aries, I believe, can also manifest in people you're close to home with, where the situations may be a little bit truculent or volatile and then contentious. So I would say that is pretty much what I wanted to get at as far as her natal chart and transits that might have been connected with this, and the general situation that has taken place in the ending of her life, sadly. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Leonard saying stay well.